Hi, welcome to the video. Today we'll be talking about the number one reason why guitars go out of tune. Even though you've just tuned the guitar, you'll be playing for 5 minutes and it's out of tune again. Why is that? How do you stop it, more importantly? Well, a lot of people may assume it's the machine heads. That's most people's first assumption. It's the machine heads. They're cheap or they're old. Well, if they're old, they may be a problem. But unless they are loose, then that's not your problem. If your machine head is loose, adjust the screw. That will usually fix it. If that doesn't fix it, then perhaps you need to replace that one machine head. And if one is faulty, then the rest are just as old and possibly could be a problem. You might want to replace them all. But that's in the extreme case that they are faulty. Usually they're not faulty, and that's not a problem. This doesn't move, it's not loose, they're all perfectly good. And these machine heads are as old as the guitar. It's about 11 years old, this guitar. So that's not my problem. And other people may assume it's old strings. Well, again, if your strings are old, perhaps you should change them. But in this case, my strings are perfectly new. I've put them on, I've tuned the guitar, haven't even strummed a chord, left it sitting on the table for a couple of days, and now the strings are flat. Why is that? Now, one thing can be a change in temperature. That will affect the strings, and in fact, it's colder today than it was a couple of days ago when I tuned the guitar. So that would usually make the strings tighter, which will make them sharper. And that's not the case. In this case, they are flat. So while temperature does play a factor in the tuning of your guitar, that's not the problem in this case. The strings aren't old, they're brand new, so that's not the problem. What is the problem? Well, main problem for people's guitars going out of tune so quickly, especially with new strings, is the elasticity and the tension of the strings. So of course they must have some elasticity, and new guitar strings have the most amount of elasticity. Although your guitar may be tuned, the string tension is not necessarily the correct tension. So how do we get rid of that elasticity and bring the guitar strings to the correct tension? Well, you stretch them. And while some guitar strings are advertised as pre-stretched, they're all well and good and they're more expensive, and I've found in my experience, I've only tried them a couple of times and they still needed stretching anyway. So it's best to just stretch them yourself. How do you stretch your guitar strings? Well, I'm glad you asked. So first of all, I'm going to tune the guitar as you normally would and get all the strings up to their correct pitch. If you don't know how to do this, check out my video on how to tune a guitar. Okay, so now the strings are all at their correct pitch. Basically tuned. So I place one hand on the strings at the headstock end to prevent them from slipping out of their slots on the nut. I stretch each string individually, and I simply place my fingers under the string like so, and I gently pull up and down a few times. Each string, stretch it, stretching out the elasticity. Now, after stretching all of the strings, if we check the tuning, we'll find that they're probably very flat. Wow, E is now D. It's gone down a whole tone. A is G sharp, etc. They're all going to be very flat. So we tune the strings again. And then we stretch the strings again. After stretching for the second time, we should notice that the strings are flat again. However, they are not as flat as the first time. First time I stretched the E string, it went down to D. Second time I stretched the E string, it went to D sharp. Continue doing this for all the strings. So after the third stretch, the E string is now in the E zone, teetering between E and D sharp. The A is now in the A zone. The D is in the D zone. G is very close to G actually. The B was A sharp, so that's getting closer. And the E is D sharp. Fourth stretch. Stretch the strings 4 times, and we find that E is very close. A, it's very close. D, very close. G, very close. B is very close. E is very close. Fifth stretch. Wow, E is there. A is very close. D, spot on. G, very close, within 4 cents. B, E, very close. Seventh stretch. D, spot on. G, spot on. B, very close. Eighth stretch. Ninth stretch. A bit sharp actually. Stretch it again. D, spot on. G, basically there. B, E. Stretch again. E, spot on. A, spot on. D, G, spot on. B, very close. E. E, spot on. A, spot on. D, spot on. So as you can see, after all this stretching, there's still elasticity left in the strings. Keep on stretching. E, spot on. A, spot on. D, spot on. G, spot on. B, spot on. E, spot on. So just when you think you're finished, I'll stretch them one more time to check that they stay exactly where they are. There was still a little give left in E. A's good. D. G. Wow, I really stretched that one. And this is why you check and check and check again. Stretch again. Stretch again. Now that we're at this stage where the strings are staying on the note, or at least very close to the note, I would suggest playing the guitar for 5 minutes, and then check your tuning. It may have gone slightly flat. You still need to stretch a little more, but you're very, very close to being professionally tuned in a way that you can play a 20-minute set on stage and you won't need to check your tuning. You'll be fine. So I took my own advice, and after playing the guitar for 5 minutes, let's check the tuning. Oh, E, good. A, good. D, good. B, stretch again. So as you can see, playing the guitar really puts the strings out, even though we've done all the stretch tuning, but it's only put it out very slightly. I promise if you haven't done the stretch tuning, it would be way further out, especially in the case of having new strings, because the new strings still have all of their elasticity. If your strings are old and been played and played and played, chances are they have no elasticity in them anymore, so once you tune it, it will stay pretty close to that. But if they haven't got any elasticity, they certainly won't have any crispness, any tone, any nice treble, so it's time to change those strings anyway. Stretching again. E, good. Now if you find you've tuned the note slightly sharp, just give it a stretch. Rather than detune it and then back up, just give it a stretch, and that should pop it back where you want it. So eventually you will get to the stage where you stretch and stretch and stretch, but the strings stay right in pitch. that is when you're ready to go and play a live set or to do your studio session recording. Because let's face it, if your guitar goes out of tune all the time, no matter how well you play it, you're going to sound bad. And so you're really fighting an uphill battle with a guitar that won't stay in tune. Most people think they need more expensive tuners. Most people think they need more expensive strings, more expensive guitar. No, you don't. You just need to learn how to stretch the elasticity out of your strings. Stretch again. Lowy. Spot on. Hey, spot on. Stretch it some more. Well, that was a big stretch. Stretch A again. It's gone a little sharp. Give it a stretch. Stretching D. So close. Stretching G. Very close. Stretching low E. Stretching A. Stretching D. Stretching G. Stretching B. And stretching high E. Low E, stretch. Bingo. A, stretch. Bingo. D, stretch. Oh, looky here. G, stretch. B, stretch. Oh, so close. E, stretch. Good. Flowy stretch, one more time. Flowy stretch again. Good. A stretch. Good. D stretch. Good. G stretch. Good. Now B and E I think are the last two. Keep going out. B. B for bingo. High E. Stretch. Oh. Now, again I would recommend playing the guitar for 5 minutes and checking the tuning again. If it goes out, you need to stretch it more. That's the way strings work. A lot of work, but if you want to be professional, you got to be in tune. If you don't do this, your guitar's going to go out of tune. Do you need fancy tuners? No. Do you need a fancier guitar? No. More expensive strings? No. Do you need locking tuners? No. You need to stretch your strings. Thank you for joining me, and as always, enjoy your guitar. Bye for now.